What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of the Oscars, the podcast that takes a look at the 2023 Oscars 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are talking about the 2023 Oscars for one final time. We've had a few days to really finally intake the show, process the winners and speeches and all the moments. So we're going to spend today's episode just kind of doing a bit of a deeper dive into all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. A lot of things happened at the Oscars, and the more that I think about it, the more that I'm unsure if I actually liked the show. And I know on our reaction episode, I was like, that's pretty solid. So I'm curious how this conversation will go. I got to shout out. I love how you pulled your poster over as soon as we were starting the pod. You were like, got to get this in the frame. I
got to get it in here. If anyone's been watching us, this has been up there for half a year. I didn't go buy this because it won Best Picture. I've been shouting it from the rooftops this whole time. So I'm so stoked.
I am curious. What do you think do you think there was a major sales spike, in Everything Everywhere All at Once, merch, posters, books, whatever it may be, on Amazon or A24? You think people just went out and cop some stuff to try to get on the train?
I mean, it's quite possible. It feels like the fan base was pretty solid from the beginning, though, in my opinion. If you liked it, you liked it. And it was really just kind of the voters that maybe finally came around to it. But I hope for their sake that I know Super Yaki put out some stuff and I grabbed one of those Stephanie Sue shirts. So
nice.
Go check that out. They got some great Everything Everywhere merch right now.
Yeah, they have some pretty good stuff. I will say, much like you, Ben, I got to defend my status here. I've had an Everything Everywhere All at Once tattoo for 9 months. I'm 8 months. So I'm in the clear. I did not get it because it won Best Picture, and I didn't get it to try to ride the bandwagon. We're OGs around here.
We're here from the beginning. Go listen to that episode.
I was going to say.
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We both loved it. Before we talk about the Oscars, we're going to do one final breakdown. This will be it. This will be the end of award season here on this podcast, the end of Oscars talk until 2024, most likely, when we're back to cover those Oscars. And then we're gonna do A24 stuff starting in a couple of weeks. Next week, we're going to talk about our top 10 favorite movies of 2022. So Oscars or not, A24 or not, our top 10. Give us a chance to kind of bridge the gap between the Oscars and getting back into full swing with A24. And then A24's got a brand new show with Ali Wong and Steven Yeun named Beef, and it comes out in 2 weeks. And we're going to talk about it here on the pod. We got movies coming out, all kinds of really exciting A24 stuff. Did you like the Beef poster? I thought the A24 vibe of changing the way a hand looks visually it's riding strong still.
It was great. It fit perfect with A24. I love those middle fingers turning into the characters. That the trailer was great. I'm really looking forward to us covering that. So we're gonna hop on that. I think it drops April 6th on Netflix. Yep. So we'll be covering that shortly thereafter. So I'm stoked.
It sounds like all episodes drop at once. So I think we're going to try and do what we did for Irma Vep. We're going to try and split the season. We'll do 1 through 5, 6 through 10 or 6 through 9, whatever it may be. And talk about that. So get that on your radar. That's going to be kind of our first A24 project back. Let's talk about how we did predicting the Oscars. I didn't do great. I'm going to be honest, and I feel really, really sad about it. I went 15 of 23, and I didn't even have Elvis blinders on. Ben, you had Elvis blinders, and I did worse than you. What the heck?
Yeah, I don't know. Somehow I went 19 for 23.
That's unreal, honestly. That's crazy good.
It's crazy. And all 4 that I missed were either Babylon or Elvis related, which is crazy because I haven't even seen Babylon. But I think I was just riding everyone else's hype.
I'm to blame for this.
Maybe you are, but also we can see who everyone that, voted or, did their predictions, to put it out there. No one at all predicted All Quiet on the Western Front for original score. 90% of them were for Babylon. That felt like the safe bet. So that was kind of crazy. I thought I might do production design. I thought Elvis might get, I thought, Austin Butler might get it. And I forget what the fourth one was. I think it might've been costume, something along those lines. But, I'm obviously I'm surprised, but stoked. I don't think I've ever gone 19 for 23. So, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, looking at our results, so we did put out the poll. We had 21 or 22 people participate. Shout out every single person that participated in this. That was incredible. Wonderful to see what all of you picked. I think like the three big categories, just from what I'm looking at right now, supporting actress kind of broke everybody's ballot. A lot of people, including myself, had Angela Bassett or Carrie Condon. Actually, caught that late wave a lot of people were on. Like you said, original score, and then makeup and hairstyling. Elvis was like it. And the Academy was just like, nah, I don't think so, which is incredible because as we've been talking about for the last so many weeks, like the Academy loves a biopic. They did it with Bohemian Rhapsody. They've done it with so many other things. And I think it's fascinating because, I guess they didn't do it with Rocket Man, right? So like, are we back to that? Like, are like 1 year for the biopic, 1 year not kind of a thing? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we kind of talked about it, and that's also partly why I went with Austin was, it'd been since 2016, and then before that, 1997, that all 4 Best Actor and like performances winners were based on fictional people. Like it almost always has someone that's like doing a historical, movie, a biopic of sorts. So I thought, well, then Austin will definitely have it. Like that'd be the way to go. So, I mean, I'm not mad about it. Brendan Fraser gave a great performance. I think overall you and I were like, I don't know, tepid or whatever on that movie. It was just like, it's a really good performance and not a really great movie, so I get rewarding him for that. Plus just like the storyline behind of his like return to Hollywood and stuff, like kind of the same with Ke Huy Quan. Like I'm all for it. I'm not mad that I lost, like that I missed those.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that conversation real quick because I want to go back to our ballots. People participated and it was incredible. Ben, let's just be transparent. You did the best. You submitted and you did the best, and for that you don't win anything. Congratulations. You get to keep your spot on the podcast. That's fantastic.
I want you to play the Willy Wonka clip right now. Like, you get nothing.
Nothing.
Good day, sir.
I said good day.
Good day.
So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
That's you are Charlie right now. So first place, and we've got some prizes, so I want to announce them right now. We will announce them on Twitter as well, so look out to be tagged, have your DMs open. We've got first place, Jack Puce, who got 18 out of 23 correct, which is really spectacular. Second place was Caleb Jeter, who went 17 of 23. Very impressive as well.
Jeter the Jedi for sure.
Yeah, at Jeter the Jedi. And then our top 3, we've got at Sweet P Jess and at KFids, both with 16 correct. So we will reward both of you. Like I said, make sure your DMs are open. First place is going to get a physical copy of an A24 movie of their choosing.
Indeed.
Both you and I, we're physical media guys. So we're going to pass the love along,
We got to do it. I know we talked about doing digital or physical, and I guess like we could be talked into digital if you really want that, but
no,
we really just want to impose our love for physical media here. And honestly, we want you to think of us every time you look at the packaging. So we're going to give a physical movie of their choice. Exactly.
100%. Second place is going to get some A24 merch that we're going to send your way. We have some kind of predetermined merch that is going to go your way. And then third place, we've got 2 third place people. They're going to get to pick an A24 movie or show for us to cover here on the pod. So they essentially get to pick a future episode of the pod. All winners will also get a sticker for our podcast. 24 minutes of A24. Yeah. I gotta be honest, it's a pretty gorgeous sticker. I've got them everywhere.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I can't wait to get those out.
You came to Portland over the weekend, as many people know. We met up for the first time in person, and you plastered some stickers around the city, Ben, showing the love.
It's the street team. I was out there trying to get our name out there for sure. So I'm stoked to get these stickers to everyone, and hopefully they can spread the love as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So be on the lookout for that. We'll tag you on Twitter. We'll shoot you a DM, but we've got some fun prizes. Hopefully we can do some more audience interaction stuff soon-ish, which would be really fun with more prizes. We love doing that kind of stuff. I love doing that kind of stuff. Okay, let's pick back up in our conversation. So Elvis went over, Banshee's got nothing, My Baby Tar, My Baby Babylon. These all
Fableman,
got nothing. Fableman.
Steve. Yeah.
God, what is going on? So that leads me to my first question. This is kind of a deep dig question to start off with, but it seems like the conversation is here. So let's talk about it. movies about movies. The Academy has a history of enjoying those, of being very pro movies about movies. They love to celebrate themselves. That is, I mean, at the end of the day, that is what the Oscars are. They're just patting themselves on the back saying we made some cool movies and this is what we do and let's reward ourselves and give every guest at the Academy Awards a massive piece of land in Australia. I think it was this year. Everybody got a chunk of land, which is crazy. Go look up like the goodie bags for the last few years of the Oscars. It is kind of unreal stuff. But The Fabelmans, it's a movie about movies and it went home empty-handed. Are we done with that? Is the Academy moving away from that, or was that just an anomaly this year?
I mean, I think it was probably an anomaly. I mean, just because we have like celebrated that stuff pretty recently, but the voting body is changing. That's for sure. You know, like normally we love a biopic. We love when someone tells their own story, as we've seen, like, you know, with Roma and other films like that. So I thought Fabelmans was going to like take a bunch of stuff. Like if you asked me in the summertime, that would have been my bet. Like if you like bet me that Fabelmans would win nothing, I would have like, I don't know, given up my firstborn that I don't have. You know, it's like there's no way. It's like it's Steven Spielberg telling his story. It's crazy. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we're just like diversifying. We the voting body, and that's kind of cool. You know, I'm not upset about it. You know, he still got to tell his story. It's a great movie. I encourage people to check it out. I was finally catching up on my Letterboxd queue, and I did my review for The Fabelmans, and it's like it's crazy that I can watch like one of the best storytellers ever tell his story in a great movie and still just be like, that's 4 stars. But it's like, because there's this curve for Spielberg where like he does 5-star stuff, you know, like if someone else had done this, I'm like, oh, this was a great film, you know, like 5 stars. I'm like, it's Spielberg. He's done more, you know, so I don't know. It's still a great movie, but so many of those, I'm surprised. It was almost like half of the Oscars were tied up between All Quiet and Everything Everywhere, right? Like 11 of the 23. And if like you take out those 3 shorts, that's like 11 of 20 went to 2 movies. That's nuts.
That is super crazy. And, you know, Spielberg is back with Tony Kushner writing for the first time in decades. And John Williams did the score and he's like 90. And it just felt like it had everything going for it, which I think personally speaks to how good of a year it was for movies. I know that might be a hot take, and a lot of people are like, wow, 2022, a lot of shit movies out there. And it's like, I don't think so. Like, if you can have these incredible films, if you can have a Spielberg film go absolutely unnoticed at the Oscars, I feel like it's a pretty good year for movies. I feel like the Academy is in no way indicting and being like, Spielberg, he's done now. He's gone. He's not good anymore. We're done with this guy.
Pasture. We're done. Yeah.
There's just no way. And so I do think it speaks, you know, pretty heavily to that. I'm curious on the show as a whole. I know we talked about it on our immediate reaction, it being simple. Kimmel kind of carried it and it did feel pretty good. And I do stand by that, but I'm curious. The more I think about it, the more I listen to other podcasts and other people and other articles talking about the Oscars. Was it the right way to go this year to make it this simple, to have, you know, this little star power? Because there were 16, I believe, first-time nominees. And I feel like you felt that. I feel like you didn't have that star power. You didn't have the famous people that you could really count on. I believe Denzel Washington and Spike Lee were like courtside at a Lakers game. They just weren't at the Oscars. They were like, let's go see a basketball game instead. Which, you know, deeper conversation for the state of the Academy, I guess. But did you feel like the show, have your thoughts changed on now that you have had time to think about it? How do you sit with that?
No, I think it was fine. You know, I mean, I think they want to like stay away from the controversy, which is like totally understandable to want to do that. So it's just like they want simple, if that makes sense. It's like, let's like, we don't need all the attention that we got last year. It kind of made me think of, I don't know if you watched it or if you care about it or not, but some people may remember the whole like Janet Jackson Super Bowl halftime
Iconic.
fiasco. You know,
I was a young boy, and my parents thought that I had just gone to hell. It was incredible.
That was it. But if you think about it, the next year, the NFL's like, let's get Paul McCartney here. Let's get someone who like
bring the temp down.
Nothing is going to happen. You know what I mean? And like that kind of felt like what this is. This was like the Paul McCartney year where it's like everyone likes him. There's going to be no issues. Like there's going to be no indecent exposure. Like nothing questionable is going to happen. And that's kind of just what this felt like. Like, let's keep it super simple. We're not going to have a whole lot of bits where Kimmel brings in, you know, people into the audience. We're not going to like do a lot of crowd work or anything like that. Like, let's just like, you know, kiss it, keep it simple, stupid, you know? So that's kind of what this felt like. And it was fine. Like, I still think it was a good show. I don't know that it was like a memorable show by any means. Like, you know, we're not going to have, I don't know, like those Billy Crystal hosting kind of things or like the Hugh Jackman musical montages, like that kind of stuff. But I'll remember it more just because like my favorite of the movie of the year just did really, really well. But outside of that, I don't think there's not going to be like the Moonlight La La Land moment. There's nothing like that. But I kind of think that's what the Oscars was going for this year, at least. Like the less, you know, people can say our name, like the better. So
is that the trajectory that the Oscars should keep? Because in recent years, that has not been the case. And I think you bring up a good point of like, I'll remember the Oscars because my favorite picture won and Everything Everywhere won 7 awards. And it's historical for lots of different reasons. But do you think that's good for the Academy, like as a whole, that the general public is not talking about any controversy whatsoever? Don't they want a little spark, a little something to feed the masses, you know?
Yeah, I think everyone wants that, you know, whatever clickbaity kind of thing. I think they just like, they had the extreme happen last year, like Moonlight La La Land, like that was a good amount of publicity. It's like, oh shit, all this stuff happened like crazy. The Oscars, that's nuts, blah, blah, blah. Last year was just, you know, a negative version of that. So I'm sure they'll be back to doing stuff like to keep my dumb Super Bowl halftime analogy going. Like we had Rihanna this year, we had Dr. Dre and Eminem like last year. Like they're not going to do Paul McCartney forever. You know what I mean? Like we'll get back to like doing fun shows. I think right now though, it's just like, let's go under the radar for a little bit here. And then let's get back into it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was just trying to egg you on and see what you'd say.
You just want to crack
under the pressure.
Yeah, you just want me. Yeah,
just want the headline for the pod, man. Ben thinks the Oscars are over. It's done.
Ben says Will Smith should be reinstated and host next year.
I was watching. Kimmel did a bit on his show, like the night after the Oscars, and he had Ki Hu Kwan stop by. Mm-hmm. It was really cool. He did a great thing. And apparently one of the champagne carpet correspondents from Entertainment Tonight accidentally identified him as Jimmy Fallon. And number one, like
identified who? Kimmel
as Jimmy Fallon. Yeah. And I don't know how you do that. Number one. Number two, I was watching it with Molly and she goes, yeah, Jimmy Fallon would be a great host. And I was like, nope. We got to back up. That's not good for me. You think Fallon would ever be a good host of the Oscars?
No, I don't know. This is a controversial take, but I'm kind of out on Fallon in general. Like,
whoa, okay.
Well, my 2 favorite talk show hosts of all time are Letterman and Conan O'Brien. So I think Conan got the raw deal with the Tonight Show, and Fallon just like got skyrocketed up to that position. Mm-hmm. I don't think he is a great interviewer. I don't think he's a great host. Like he's just like he's too much, you know. Right. So I wouldn't necessarily want him there. The thing that Fallon would do is like the friend group, the connections with SNL would maybe allow for a lot of like fun cameos and stuff, which would be cool. Kimmel doesn't necessarily have that kind of group. Like he's not going to fucking invite Adam Carolla. At least I hope he doesn't, you know. It's just like, we don't need the man show in 2024, you know, like, so like if Fallon came up, I just like would want him more for his connections than himself. Like I don't really enjoy him overall. So it'd be a nightmare for me. I think Kimmel did great. He was just like, he was fine. Honestly, let Conan host. He doesn't have a show, you know what I mean? He has a podcast, but let him do the Oscars. Like he'd be great. Do you remember him last year? Like it was at the Globes or something like that he was like at the table. Like I don't know. People like him. People like being around him. He's a fun person to be around. He's great, like on the spot, all that kind of stuff. So if I'm going to push for anyone, it's give me Conan hosting the Oscars. But the last person I want is James Corden, but the other last person I want is Jimmy Fallon. But we're getting way off topic here.
That's fair. That's fair. I bring this up because Variety did put out an interesting exclusive piece where they kind of broke down some behind the scenes things about the Oscars. And it does sound like Kimmel is the front runner to host next year's Oscars already. Mm-hmm. He did quite a good job. I think one of the most interesting things in that article is that he had several additions or versions of his opening monologue and his bits in between. And they kind of took the temperature of the room before the show and kind of made some last minute decisions and cut out a lot of jokes about Tar and cut out some jokes about To Leslie and other movies that they just didn't get the sense that a lot of people would have seen or cared about or listened to these jokes and they would have hit, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. It sucks because that means nobody saw Tar, which is a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And I feel like the To Leslie jokes have probably been run into the ground at that point. Man. Poor Andrea Riseborough. I don't know what role in this she had, but she just got annihilated. So
yeah,
I don't know. It does speak well to Kimmel though that he can kind of come up with that. I think I read something too that the teleprompter died before the editing awards, and so he just came up with that on the spot. As far as if any of you have ever gotten a text from your dad, you'll appreciate some good editing, or what good editing can do. That's a good
joke. I laughed at that joke.
Yeah, it's a great joke. So just something like that to be able to come up with that on the spot worked really well. So yeah, I don't have anything against Kimmel by any means. I think but just like everything else, he's unforgettable, but probably in the best intentional way.
100% agree. And I think the forgettable fashion of the Oscars, it sounds like people didn't like that about it. People were it just felt dry or kind of devoid of energy or life or whatever it may have been. Yeah. That's exactly what the Academy needed and wanted this year. In my opinion, they were up to 18.8 million viewers, so up 13% to last year, which had 15.36 million, which was an all-time low. So in terms of viewership numbers, this year was the second worst year ever. Dang. It didn't feel like that to me when you watched it. It felt better than that.
Yeah.
1998 had the most views. It holds the record for 55.3 million. Watching Titanic win Best Picture. 2017 was the last time the show was over 30 million. It hit 33 million when Moonlight won, like you mentioned. And then the last time it crossed 20 million was pre-pandemic in 2020 when Parasite won. We're getting pretty close back to that 20 million kind of threshold.
Yeah.
After this year, are the Oscars back? Dude, are more people going to tune in next year? Do you feel like we're on an upward trajectory? Because I feel pretty good. Honestly, I feel good about where the Oscars are and where they're headed next year.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably headed, in a positive trajectory. I think, this year we had such a crazy movie out there as a front runner, which I think brought a lot of people in. It's can this really weird multiverse movie pull it off? And it did. So I think a lot of it might depend next year on what's running. You know what I mean? If people are super into Barbie and it somehow gets I don't know, original screenplay and then maybe fits into those 10 best pictures. It'd be crazy, but not maybe absurd, there are some movies here, we covered all 10 of them and there were quite a few. It's I don't think this makes the 5 cutoff, pre 2008. So, there's a chance something like that happens. We got Oppenheimer coming out. We got Beau's Afraid. We have so much. We have a Scorsese movie. We have
Killers
so much stuff coming out. Yeah.
A masterpiece, according to Leo.
Yeah. So I think I don't know. I think it's on the way up. But just like everything else, they just want to know, is there a popular movie that people are going to attach to? Obviously, personally, if Guardians 3 somehow got into any sort of this mix, great. It's maybe we need some of this Black Panther, Angela Bassett kind of nominations to get those people to watch. But I don't know if Marvel's or Guardians 3 or I forget what else is coming out next year. I don't even remember, but
too many things, man.
Yeah. If only you
Blue
had
Beetle.
a Marvel podcast. Yeah.
Why don't we get Blue Beetle in the Best Picture convo here?
yeah, exactly. Let's get Bad Bunny up there. So
Bad Bunny.
yeah, I think we're on a positive trajectory. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
I do think it's interesting because like I've been kind of on that, side of the argument where it's like, let's get really popular movies in the Best Picture mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have 10, use a couple of those to get some really popular movies. And it felt like that's what we did this year. We got Top Gun Maverick, single-handedly responsible for saving the theatrical industry. And then we get Avatar: The Way of Water, the third highest grossing movie of all time. And we get those movies, and I'm curious how much of that viewership bump is in part to that. Like, I wonder how many people tuned in and was like, oh, Top Gun Maverick's up for Best Picture? Maybe they'll play a montage. Maybe they'll have Tom Cruise there. Maybe they'll do a Maverick bit. Like, I wonder how many people tuned in specifically for that and their movie per se, or how much of that was like the Everything Everywhere effect, where it was like everybody knew about it. It was the talk of the industry. It was the talk of the town. It was the talk of, film Twitter. Like, it broke down those barriers, and I think it got to everybody. And I just don't know if adding Maverick and adding Avatar, I don't know if that was like the key. I don't know if that did very much to like move the needle, because Maverick walks out of there with one Oscar, with one sound Oscar. They stick the team in the very back. They stick the supporting cast up in the fucking rafters, and no Tom Cruise, which I thought was terrible for the Oscars.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. That's the power Nicole Kidman has, I guess. But even like, Big Jim not being there, apparently it's because he threw his own Oscars party for everyone working on Avatar, and that's awesome.
Oh, interesting.
But for him to not even be there is kind of just like crazy. But that also just took one, right? Just like VFX, well deserved. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's hurting it by any means to have some of these like populist movies on there, but I also don't know what impact it's actually having on the numbers.
Yeah. Like, I just don't know if it's positive enough to continue to constitute having a popular movie, right? Like, does the Academy from here on out just say, okay, whatever the highest grossing movie was that year, we should probably consider it, because that's the movie that the most amount of people have seen. And that's the movie that we can put in our montages, and we can use the score, and we can use the title card and try to get people in to watch the show. I just don't know if that is going to happen. I don't know if that should happen. Jury's still out on that for me. I'm really curious, because I just wanted Top Gun Maverick to have more of a shot. And, I wonder if it comes down to this year being an anomaly. Like, do you think this year, do you think Everything Everywhere could do it again in 3 years, right? Like, if it was not released this year, if it wasn't this momentum, if it wasn't everything perfectly lined up for it, would this have been the Best Picture nominee or the Best Picture winner? Or do people say, let's stay traditional. Let's go Fabelmans. Let's go Banshees. Let's go something that we've been known to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious if it was a one-off.
Yeah, it's curious to put it, instead of forward, I'm trying to put it backwards almost. It's just like, I think maybe it wins over Green Book, but like, I don't know if it beats Parasite, because like they kind of had similar storylines to an extent. The thing with Everything Everywhere also was just like the three people that won acting awards there kind of got not either a lifetime achievement or welcome back to the industry awards. Well deserved, 100%. I'll share my feelings on Jamie Lee Curtis later, but like Michelle Yeoh, super deserved. Ki Kwan, like, welcome back, man. Like, I'm so stoked to see more of him. So there's also those aspects outside of the movie where it's these people who get to like interact, like Ki Kwan's like fucking infectious, like his joy, his sincerity. Like, our buddy Clayton Davis, like, got to interview him the day after, and like, he's still kind of like riding the high of just like, this is awesome. I never thought I'd be able to do this. This is so cool. And this guy's been talking about this movie for over, almost a year now, and he's still just like stoked about everything. So I think that's great. I think this, I don't necessarily want to say it's an anomaly, but I also think it was more than just the movie itself. Like, there's a story behind a lot of this stuff that helped it win.
I see a story.
I see a story.
I am also of the mind that Everything Everywhere deserved it. It deserved the 7 awards. I'm not trying to take that away from it by any stretch at all. I think it did deserve it, and it worked, and everything panned out just the way it did. But I also think that the award season is just too damn long. Like, I think it's just way too long. Like, we've been doing this for 4 months now, like, not necessarily just with the Oscars, but, you know, with SAG, WGA, PGA, BAFTA, Spirit Independent, like, awards after awards after awards, week after week after week. And you have all these predetermining factors where Everything Everywhere gets nominated for like 400 plus things and takes home like 400 plus wins throughout the season. And it just feels a bit that this year going into it, even though there was still that energy, even though there was still like those butterflies where it was like, oh my God, like can it actually win? Can it do it? Can A24 pull it off? Can we see everything we want to see happen? It felt extremely predictable considering the years past that we've had. And, you know, maybe some less kind of predetermining factors, because Everything Everywhere, it won everything. Let's just be honest. It was never a question if it was actually going to lose or not. And, it gets a little bit tired. I wonder if the Oscars suffer a little bit from that shock factor. I know we were talking a little bit about bringing a spark or some type of controversy. I wonder if people are just not watching as much because it's already written in the stars. It's already been told. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I mean, to go back to Clayton and our conversation with him at the beginning of the season, he talked about the Oscars used to be like in April, like the end of April. So it's like
unreal.
They haven't always been in February or anything. I think we are just so much more tapped into like SAG and BAFTA. And so we are giving ourselves, it's the Easter egg culture of like this, episode of Mandalorian dropped half an hour later. Here's everything that was in it. It's like, cool, give me all of it. And like, I'm guilty of that. You know what I mean? Like I love seeing that kind of stuff, but along those same lines, it's like, yeah, okay. I like, obviously Everything Everywhere came out. Like, what was it? South by Southwest last year in March. So like it's been out for a year now. We've been talking about it forever. So like, I get that. I think also anything of note that happens is happening at the show, if that makes sense. Like we had questions on some stuff, like, is it going to be Cate Blanchett or Michelle Yeoh? Like we didn't all know for sure it's going to be Michelle Yeoh. Honestly, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Angela Bassett, but to that extent, it's also just like, well, there's no point turning in. Like we know who's going to do it, but we get upsets at the show. And it's like, oh shit, they pulled that off. That's crazy. But there was a lot less. It really kind of felt like lead actor was the only one that kind of felt really undecided. Like it felt like it could have gone three ways easily. We're just like, I don't know who's going to take it. Like Colin Farrell was great too, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's this overconsumption that we're all guilty of and that we do, but it's like, it's also kind of on us, that this is like what we do. But for you and I think like we're super into it. It's like, cool. I want to know like, oh great. Like the Screenwriters Guild rewarded Sarah Polley. That makes me think maybe she's going to win adapted screenplay. And she did, right. And I like that kind of stuff where it's like, all right, who are the people in their industry? Who are they respecting? And how does that go towards the vote? So yeah, it's like, it's long for sure, but I don't know what the option is. Like it would just move everything up, but then we still have the same issue.
Number of awards.
Still know all the from everything else. Yeah,
totally. I wonder if Everything Everywhere came out a year ago, basically almost today, like a few days ago, a year ago at South by Southwest. So they've had a year to market this movie, to campaign this movie, to get voters primarily to see this movie. And if they didn't like it the first time, they had time to see it a second time or a third or a fourth. They had time to show other voters and their friends and their families and things like this. I wonder if this fundamentally changes the structure of how studios operate within the campaigning for an Academy Award, because it has historically always been November, December releases. Those are the big guns. These are the guys. Yeah. And we're withholding them all year so we can release them as late as possible so they stay relevant and fresh in the conversation of people's movie watching lives enough to be at the Academy Awards and enough to sustain that energy going into the Oscars. This movie came out in fucking March of last year. I wonder if this is a huge shift and a huge flip for like studios to be like, oh, wow, maybe we should release some really good stuff early in the year. And then we just let people watch it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And then we figure out how to build that momentum back up. I think that's where things are going. And I'm really genuinely fascinated to see if that happens this year in 2023. What's our March movie? What's our April movie that is going to be that thing that people can point to and say, you remember last year, a movie came out right now and it won Best Picture. Let's not count this out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I kind of wondered about that with Get Out when that came out. I was like, oh, this is way too early to keep, fresh in people's minds. And it did, I think it won an original screenplay, which was great. But I think that it's such a pre-pandemic mentality because everything hits streaming now, Daniel Kaluuya wins for Judas and the Black Messiah, but you couldn't even really watch that during the Oscars. HBO had pulled it because it was that dumb, it's on here for a month and we're going to pull it, but it's also not going to go back in theaters. There's this weird thing. I mean, right now I'm thinking about as we're talking is were any of the best 10 pictures still in theaters without a special re-release? You know what I mean?
For this year's Oscars?
For this year, maybe Avatar, just because that they're going to leave that in there forever because Jim wants to make 3 billion, which great, do it.
More power.
But, Elvis was out, Tar was out, Triangle of Sadness. You know what I mean? Everything had left the theaters at that point. I think
Women
movie.
Talking was probably the closest one. That was probably one of the latest releases that we got.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It just feels like the mentality has to shift now where it doesn't have to be November, December.
Right. And even you look at Top Gun Maverick, that was in theaters for 6 months. That was top of the box office for almost 6 months. That came out pretty early in the year as well. And so I think that definitely changes things. And I know Banshees was not a November release. I know I saw it way earlier than that. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. I'm curious what that looks like moving forward. This year was historical, not only for the fact that Apple took home nothing. Amazon took home nothing. Netflix took home 4 for one single movie, which debatably successful, I guess. Did have an upset in some categories, but they were still not in conversation for those big picture, or the big categories. But it was historical for lots of different reasons. Ruth E. Carter becomes the first Black woman to win 2 Oscars, which is incredible, startling, but incredible. Michelle Yeoh, the second woman ever of color to win Best Actress after Halle Berry in 2002. So it took 21 years for another woman to win, or another woman of color to win Best Actor or Actress, excuse me. A24 becomes the first studio to win all 4 acting categories, and Everything Everywhere All at Once now holds the most amount of above-the-line wins for any movie ever.
Yeah.
That stat's fucking crazy, man.
That really is. That's insane. Obviously, Lord of the Rings still, I think holds the overall record, going 11 for 11, but so many of those were below the line, the sound, the VFX, all that kind of stuff. Yep. And understandably so. Yeah, this one's nuts because it's just so many people on screen, and that led to their 7 wins. It's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and I think there were a lot of really valuable moments on the night that might get lost because it wasn't a super memorable night, right?
Yeah.
There's just not a lot, and everybody wants that clickbait title, and those aren't it, which sucks, but that's just the way things are. And I think a lot of these stats, A24 becomes the first studio to win all 4 acting categories. It's oh, cool, and then people move on with their lives.
Yeah,
you and I, the hosts of an A24 themed podcast, that's a big deal because A24 is now the studio that kind of has it figured out, and they saw it all the way through to the finish line, and it's just never been done by a studio. And you can only imagine the amount of work that took on the back end for them.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it here on the pod, but I wonder if this might be as good as it gets for A24 for a while. Or do you think they can ride the energy? I am positive. I feel positive that they can keep the train moving quickly, but I don't know if a stat like this can necessarily be repeated again, at least in the near future for this studio.
I don't think so. And I think we talked about it like on our live reaction right after. And Daniel Kwan said the best thing, I believe, he was, directing towards his son. He's like, if you ever watch this, I want you to know that like, this isn't a thing you need to like try to achieve. Like, this is crazy. This is an insane thing that happened. This isn't the norm. This isn't anything that like you needs to be your goal. And I think that's right, and I think they will act that way. I think hopefully A24 does as well, where it's just like, you can't necessarily focus on like winning the championship as much as you just need to focus on making yourself the best player kind of thing, then that will lend itself to that. So,
look at Netflix, right? I think that's a perfect example that you bring up. Yeah. They have strived time and time again for that best picture win, and they have fallen short every goddamn time, and they have not brought it home yet. All Quiet on the Western Front wins more awards than Power of the Dog. And the Power of the Dog was like, that was their holy grail. They were like, Jane Campion's back, bringing a modern American Western with Benedict Cumberbatch about crazy. A gay lover. Like, this is what it is. We can do it. And they didn't do it. So I wonder, A24 as a studio is only 10 years old. They have this longevity. They have something unlocked that Netflix and Amazon and Apple just don't have figured out yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, again, like they're just focused on making good stories. It kind of, they give me the vibe of like Jason Blum and Blumhouse, where it's like, here, like we just want a good story, and theirs is more focused on budget. Like, if you can make it for under 5 million, you're approved, put it out there kind of thing. But A24, I think they're just like focused on good stories and good movies, and that's kind of led them here. Whereas Netflix is like, hey, Marty, here's like $200 million to make The Irishman, which we've all heard about for like 20 years. Make it. And then the Oscars are just like, all right, cool, thanks. Next,
it goes like 0 for 8 or 0 for 9 or something stupid.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Talking of star power, talking of Marty and things to come. Tom Cruise doesn't show up at the Oscars this year, which you briefly mentioned.
Yeah.
What rumor has it was because of Nicole Kidman. Rumor also has it that he had got wind that Judd Apatow was helping Kimmel write his script, and Apatow had taken some pretty big blows at him at the DGA Awards, and he didn't like those jokes, so he didn't want to be in the front row, right? Understandably, kind of sitting there taking jokes. What is is Tom Cruise ever going to win an Oscar? And B, like, is this beef between the Academy and Tom Cruise ever going to be squashed? Like, is Tom ever going to go to this thing? I think he's just way too petrified of getting obliterated in front of the national eye, and he doesn't necessarily like that. He wants to uphold that star image.
He's not going to win, in my opinion, anything directly. I think it would be like a lifetime achievement. We're going to talk about some things that we hope change, and when and if they do bring about a best stunts thing, like they need to just like grandfather in all the Mission Impossible movies, like that kind of stuff. Just like, oh yeah, like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all these things. So he'll get some recognition there, but I can't imagine at this point in his life what he would have to do to like win an Oscar. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, he's not taking Vanilla Sky roles anymore. Yeah, exactly. He's just like, I just want to like jump out of planes and do cool shit. It's like, great, summertime, fast planes. Let's do it. Great.
Yeah, true. I do think it's unfortunate for the Academy. I think it's unfortunate for us, for viewers, because like, I want to see Tom Cruise there. I want, I want people yapping it up with Cruise. Like, I think that's fun. That makes for good TV. And then obviously, the days after, you get all these photos that come out from people who were there, and like you see all these stars mingling. Like, I wonder what they were talking about, and their facial expression. I wonder what they were listening in on. Like all these kinds of things. I think that would be really fun if Tom Cruise was at the center of that. I don't think it's going to happen. Like you said, he's not taking Magnolia roles anymore. Maybe he does one day. Maybe we pray, we make a Tom Cruise shrine and just say, do something like Magnolia once again. Let's talk about some things that we want changed. Some things in light of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Maybe we head to a multiverse where the Oscars contain categories or winners necessarily of things that we want, things that we think should be recognized. You want to start with some categories that we would like to see at the Oscars, or do you want to start with some things that we would have wanted to win this year at the real Oscars?
Let's go with it. Yeah, let's talk about categories that maybe we hope to see in the future. Then let's talk about some stuff that we felt like maybe was misses this year.
Okay. I want to give you a hot take right out of the gate. I want to see best poster.
Okay.
Best poster. I don't know how the hell you would figure it out or determine it or figure out who's nominated, but I think it would really encourage studios to actually put a goddamn lick of ingenuity into their posters and not just put a floating head on them and give us some cool art. I'm looking at you, Scream 6. We got a shit ton of cool posters and I loved it and everybody else loved it. Let's just make a best poster Oscar. I think it's sick.
I mean, I really like the idea of it, but like, I'm just thinking of, you know, some of these people that show up for like the short documentary was just like, they are very like socially awkward, whatever.
Right.
And I'm just picturing like the recluse artist who had to like come out of his cave, you know, for who's like, oh, thank you. You know, it's just like, I can't imagine that person on stage, you know, just like if she can't make eye contact with anyone, just like staring down. Like,
this is what I want.
Really enjoy it, but yeah.
I want the best poster, the winner, to then be projected or put up behind the person speaking. And I want like a 2-minute breakdown of every design intention in that poster. I want this nerd to be like, and see the negative space here, it leads into this, and your eye really follows these lines and everything
lines,
like that.
Yeah. I like that.
That's what I want to see.
I mean, my first one, I just mentioned it, but it's way past time that we talk about stunts, like what these people do, like for all the, I mean, we have even just more action movies now than we did before, you know, it's just like all the comic book movies, all these Mission Impossibles. We just watched there's a Netflix series on the movies that raised us, and we watched the Die Hard one, and it was just like,
oh, cool.
You know, Bruce did some of his own stunts, you know, a little bit, but he also just had stunt people like helping out. And I think it's important that those people get rewarded, because like they are, outside of Tom Cruise, they are really the only people in the film industry putting their lives on the line, like quite literally, you know. And it's just like, why aren't we recognizing these people and what they're doing? You know, like they're choosing to, I'm not saying like they're getting drafted and we need to like stand and salute them, but it's just like they have a very scary job, and if it's done well, what they do is like, I don't know, it makes and breaks a movie, you know?
Yeah, totally. It is so interesting because dependent on a stunt quality, I think it's kind of a no news is good news situation in terms of that. Like if you go into a Marvel movie and the stunts look nice and they're pulled off well with very good execution and it looks seamless, you don't necessarily know. You're not like, wow, they really nailed that stunt. Obviously, a Mission Impossible is a different situation, but it doesn't pull you out of the movie. And so I think a lot of times, especially on film Twitter, people are like, wow, look at this. What, you know, how terrible this stunt was. And meanwhile, we're getting immaculate stunts in other places, you know, everything, everywhere, all at once. Great example that the team definitely, you know, behind that needs to be rewarded, needs to be seen, and it deserves. And I know a really big conversation happening right now. John Wick 4 just had a bunch of early screenings, and it comes out next week. And people are like, it's time. It's time we get a best stunt at the Oscars, because John Wick 4 is going to be leading that pack. Apparently there are things that have just like never, ever, ever been seen before.
Nice.
I co-sign, dude. I need it.
I'm here for it.
And then they could give a really cool like live stunt. That'd be sick.
That'd be cool. I'd be for that as well.
I've always been a fan of Best Ensemble. The Independent Spirit Awards do this. And while I think it could be problematic in the fact of, you know, a la Oppenheimer, let's just get a bunch of really famous white people in our movie, I also think that it could be really beneficial, and it could be a very interesting conversation and talking point when it comes to the awards, because you could get a lot of people that feel very differently about how an ensemble works or is defined or, you know, really flows together. I think that'd be fun. Plus, you get more famous people at the Oscars. You get more famous people being talked about in general. And you probably get more famous people presenting this Oscar because they want to be included. And whoever wins, that's a bunch of famous people up on stage. Like, that's why people want to watch the Oscars, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think it could be a lot of fun. And I think Oppenheimer is a great example because it's like, do you reward the movie that has like 40 names that you recognize in it,
Right.
Or is it something, honestly, like, does Banshees get it? Because it's like, is it like the impact per minute thing? Like there's 4 people and they all bring it, between Colin and Barry and Brendan and Carrie Condon.
5 with Jenny, which is great.
And Jenny, of course, obviously, but like they're all giving A+ performances. So we got like 4 A+ performances, or do you do the 40 of them, which maybe average like a B+, it's like, it's an interesting discussion to have. And I think the ensemble will definitely bring that around.
I think it really follows in the footsteps of like a best picture, right? Of like, do you get the 2 and the 2 or 3 fill in the group where it's like everybody knows these people and so they want to see if they're going to win an award, or do you fill in all 10 with very niche Academy picks?
Exactly. The last one that I just want to throw in there, again, like especially with where we're at, is best voiceover work. I think that would work really well. Like we have so many animated movies, someone like Andy Serkis didn't get recognized, for all of his Lord of the Rings work with Gollum. Like, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a mocap thing specifically, but that's not to say it couldn't include like best voice / mocap work, like make that a category. It's just like these people put in a lot of effort and a lot of work into this. And I think it deserves, some recognition as well.
Yeah, I think any like more, behind the camera things that we can recognize is always better. And I think it's always better for the Oscars in terms of, feeling like they're recognizing everybody properly, feeling like they're totally well-rounded in understanding what makes a movie. And I think a lot of that is part of that. The last one that I want to say, I just remembered, because, Afterson's our little baby here on the pod. We're big Aftersun fans. Love Charlotte Wells, and this was her debut film. Give us best debut feature. Reward first-time directors for doing something with gusto, with guts, with verve, and making it, something that works. And I think that would be an awesome kind of bridge the gap award where it's like, hey, and in this year is a perfect example. Hey, we have 16 first-time nominees. One of them is guaranteed to win in this category, in best debut feature. And I would just kill to see that happen at the Oscars.
Yeah. And, along those lines, debut for performance would be great too.
Yeah.
Because there are some that, like, I think this is Stephanie Sue's first real feature film. It's like that deserves some recognition, I think. So, yeah, I think debuts would be awesome.
Yeah. Anything before we kind of, start the wrap up here, is there anything from this year besides the Babylon, that you wanted to see specifically win in a category? Something that you not necessarily maybe think the Academy got wrong, but something that you felt should have won and didn't win.
I think one of my biggest ones is lead actor. I feel like Jared Leto for Morbius should have gotten it.
Damn right. Yep.
That should have been in there, but
he should have morbed out.
Yeah, it was Morbin time, No, honestly, like the only one, like I'm looking over, everything that won, all that kind of stuff. And I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis was the best supporting actress in her own movie. Like Stephanie Sue should have won that award, in my opinion. Out of those two, Angela Bassett obviously like carried that Wakanda Forever film. Such a hard thing to do after Chadwick, passed away. Carrie Condon holding up her own. Like, it's just kind of nuts that like our 4th and maybe 5th worst performance being Jamie Lee Curtis won, but that's what happens with these like lifetime achievement awards. Like The Departed isn't Martin Scorsese's best movie, but the Academy was finally just close. Like, we gotta give him one. Like, we don't know what else he's going to be giving us. And this one's good, Yeah.
Which leads me to ask you, Killers of the Flower Moon in 2024, is it Marty's time again? Is the Academy going to be like, look, we feel kind of bad. We did it to Departed. Killers of the Flower Moon, actually a masterpiece. Here you go. This is real.
I'm here for it. Plemons and Brendan Fraser's going to be in it, right? And Leo, like I'm here for it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. I think, besides Tar, I think Tar, this is the tough thing with Tar because it doesn't necessarily feel like it should have been a winner. In my heart, it should have been a winner, but like All Quiet on the Western Front, you can't argue the cinematography. You just can't. It's just, that wasn't even in my top movies of 2022, but like it makes sense why it won that award. I would have liked to see Tar in that conversation. Obviously, Babylon with production design and score, I think that should have happened. Talking about movies that should have been nominated that were not nominated, I think that Nina Haas from Tar should have been up for a Best Supporting Actress. I would have loved to see that. I think Nope was easily one of the best movies of 2022, and it just got shut out at the Academy Awards. Nothing, no original script, no VFX, nothing whatsoever, and that hurts. That hurts because that movie was really good and just didn't get any recognition, and I'm still a little baffled, quite honestly, and going into the Oscars, I was pretty confident that both the movie Decision to Leave and the director Park Chan-wook would like get recognized. Decision to Leave is one of the best movies of 2022. Like a little spoiler for next week's episode, it's very high on my list. It's got some of the most incredible cinematography that I've ever seen done on camera. It is fantastic. Wasn't even nominated for Best International Feature. And I don't know what the fuck we're doing. Like when that stuff happens, it's so easy for me to just be like, the Academy's gone, like lost it. You know what I mean? Like it's just ridiculous. Yeah,
it's interesting to try to understand their thought process. Cause like you said, Nope and Jordan Peele got nothing at all. Inarritu, who has won 2 Best Pictures, only was nominated for like Best Cinematography for Bardo. It's like this dude won back-to-back Oscars and you guys were like, nah, we'll give you cinematography. That's it, which is ridiculous. Fine. Like I haven't seen the movie. I have no idea how good or bad it is, but it's just interesting to like, I don't know, some of these people that you kind of think like they're at least going to like, oh yeah, they'll be in no matter what. It's interesting to see them kind of get left out. Yeah, it is. And it's really, really easy to get really down on the Oscars, and it's really hard to feel better about what they're doing and the decisions that they make. And I want to use this platform very briefly to say my truth. And it's that just because your favorite movie didn't win doesn't mean the Oscars suck. I see a lot of really, really hot takes out there where it's like, as an example, a lot of people were on the Carrie Condon, the Banshees of Inisherin train, and they're like, Carrie Condon didn't win, Oscars are rigged. It's like, well, that's not how that works. I'm sorry to break it to you. Look, Babylon didn't win. It went home empty-handed. Yeah, it hurts, and I think it deserved it. I don't take that as like one big like Hollywood's broken, kind of thing, even though Hollywood's pretty much broken. So I just think it's important that people remember that, I think it's good. Yeah. Let them know.
2024 Oscars. Last question, last conversation topic here. What do we want? What are we hoping for? We want more stars, more hosts, more musical performances. What are we hoping we do next year? Now that we are on an upward trajectory.
I mean, copy and paste for me, it's like, it was good. It was great. I'm glad we got clips. I appreciated stuff like Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors talking about cinematography, because it's like someone who really enjoys that stuff and the history of it, like them talking about Citizen Kane. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Cause I don't know when else the general public is going to hear this stuff. Like they may always hear about, oh, it's the best movie ever according to Sight and Sound. Why? It's like, cool. Well, here's like 3 minutes kind of explaining part of that.
That's what I'm saying with Poster, man. It's like, it's very necessary.
Okay. So yeah, more of that. Tell me how you make a poster and how that's helping cinematography. But yeah, just that kind of stuff. I like those kind of segments for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I think I'm hoping for maybe better presenter pairings next year. A lot of them to me felt just a little like, I don't know. Like I just wasn't like super in on a lot of them. Yeah. I did like the Michael B. Jordan and the Jonathan Majors thing. And I think part of the reason that worked is because both of those guys are at the forefront of cinema culture right now. And Michael B. Jordan just came out with his debut feature film that Jonathan Majors is in. And so it makes sense logistically for Majors to like ask him a question about directing, and like he can tell you that. And I think that's really important. I want more montages and clips, like you said, kind of a copy and paste. I think that is definitely what we need and what we want to do. And I think that's how you continue to get more people invested is like, you just show scenes from movies. I think that's really what people want.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think more, honestly, put a camera or put a fleet of cameras on the ground. And when we're going to a commercial, give us some cool, like, close-up movie star stuff. Like, don't give us this, like, you know, overhead hovering, like, here is everybody at their tables and now they're starting to mingle. And, you know, like, tune back in 4 minutes for the rest of it. Like, get us close. Get us to, you know, Paul Mescal talking with Michelle Yeoh. Put us in the Kate Blanchett hanging out with Ki Hu Kwan and chatting it up. Like, I think that'd be really fun. And that's kind of what I want to see next year.
You just want everyone zoomed in like Lady Gaga was at the beginning of that song, right?
I want
like,
that
no forehead,
Mike Wazowski.
no chin, just like super zoomed in. That's what I want. I want to see everyone's fucking pores. I want to see them sweating.
What were they doing? What was happening?
I have no idea.
I'm a fan of that performance. I liked the unplugged version. I did. And I feel like me enjoying the Oscars so much is kind of a hot take, but I'm going to stand by it. And like, I liked that performance. That cameraman needs to back up.
Yeah.
You gotta get some negative space in there, brother.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Still in a pandemic, dude. 6 feet. Come on. That's crazy.
6 feet. Come on, 6 feet. All right. Any closing thoughts on the Oscars, Ben, before we don't talk about it for 44 weeks, 45 weeks?
I mean, just that it was awesome to finally like meet up and watch the Oscars together. That was super
cool.
rad to come up to Portland and do that and see them together. I know you and I haven't talked like officially about anything, but I can see this being a recurring segment on the show. I enjoy covering all these best pictures. So I think, you know, we can plan on that for, you know, beginning of every single year. Let's keep doing this. Yeah.
I had a blast, man. I'm glad you came out to Portland. It was cool, you know, meeting up and like doing real things together. We went to went to a movie shop and like we grabbed lunch and dinner and drinks and like we did real other things that were not just the podcast, which was cool. So that was fun. But yeah, this is definitely going to recur. And honestly, we'll probably do like a, you know, like a halfway check-in on like, if the Oscars were today, what would you do? I think that would be kind of fun to see, kind of, you know, in the first half of the year. Like we said at the top of the show, top 10 movies of 2022 are coming next week. All movies considered. And then after that, we've got back to A24 Roots, man. What a good time to be an A24 pod, you know?
Dude, yeah. This is killer. I mean, getting that beef trailer and knowing the stuff that we missed, but knowing what's coming. We got our next Ari Aster movie, like a month. I
cannot believe it. We haven't talked about Beau's Afraid for like 12 weeks.
It's insane. We'll be talking about that plenty in a couple of weeks.
Oh my God, dude. That movie's going to be off the rails.
Yeah.
I've been showing my daughters clips of the Yellow Brick Road scene from Wizard of Oz.
Midsommar or something. What the fuck are you doing? It's crazy.
Yeah, I just show them the Hereditary ending just to prep them for what is possible for both.
Your head off with the piano wire.
And so I've been showing them the Yellow Brick Road, and every time at the very end of that clip, Dorothy walks through down the Yellow Brick Road, and I'm always like, "Oh, Beau's Afraid is gonna slap." I'm always like, "This movie's gonna be good."
Yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be fun to talk about that. I'm excited to go over our top 10, our favorite 10 of last year. I think it's gonna be good. I'm gonna
preface that and say that there is going to be some drama on that pod. Look out, listeners! It's gonna get heated. I'm excited.
It's gonna be good for sure. Well, everyone, like, what did you think of the Oscars this year? What did you think of us covering these episodes? Do you want us to keep doing this? Let us know. I mean, we like doing it. We'll probably do it anyway, but obviously we love to hear from you guys. So let us know. We're on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Also, you can see us on YouTube. You can go back if you want and watch our immediate reactions to the Oscars after you listen to this. It was our first time being together, recording in person, which was kind of cool. So I encourage you to go check that out. But yeah, find us on YouTube and subscribe to us there. Thanks again, everyone. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. And for the last time, until we go back to our OG Spring Breakers inspired happy 10-year anniversary Spring Breakers outro, as the legendary and immortal Tom Cruise, the guy who skipped the Oscars, says, "See you at the movies."
See ya.